Decade after decade, we've sat back and waited for our government to tell us the truth about what they know, and coincidentally there's always just enough evidence to keep you interested, yet never enough to convince you beyond a shadow of a doubt. I too have been optimistic since the congressional hearings, but after hearing Luna state that most of the meat and potatoes has been released, we can at this point say with certainty that we're being bleep around by those in power. So my question is, why? And is there even disclosure to begin with? I think the answer to the why is simple and already one of the most talked about theories in this sub. To maintain power, the longer these shadow companies/entities remain exclusive to the knowledge and technology, the more powerful they become. But most importantly, we are the commodity that fuels the profits of the world. They'll be desperate to continue that arrangement for as long as humanly possible. So then, is actual disclosure coming? In my opinion, no. It would be more accurate to call what's happening an attack on inevitable disclosure. What I mean is that all information released will be incoherent, questionable, and lacking enough support or attention to gain real traction. It's a means of keeping a sizable portion of the population waiting for answers instead of finding them for themselves. So what is the answer? I'm sure a lot of you won't like it, but I think it's spirituality, or at least that's the best word we have for it right now. Let's say you're someone who has never had an experience of any kind. I believe that's, at least in part, a choice. We have objective studies showing that consciousness, belief, and expectation can influence healing. Whether it's belief, meditation, the placebo effect, or something else entirely, there are fascinating things happening that science does not yet have the tools to fully explain. So, why do I care? What keeps my belief in this topic strong? The answer was my aha moment a few years ago when I finally dove deep into this subject and saw how many different topics it connects to. I'm one of the huge number of people who experience sleep paralysis. It always scared me, but I found it fascinating at the same time. Eventually, I stopped thinking too deeply about it after reading studies explaining that it's simply waking up during a stage of sleep and becoming trapped between sleeping and waking consciousness. The explanation covered most of my experiences, but not all of them. The first time, I was lying in bed when sleep paralysis began. Suddenly, I felt my body float off the bed and toward the ceiling. I was completely freaked out. A second later, I bumped into the ceiling and then dropped right back into my bed. The second time, I was lying in bed and heard and felt several people touching me. Terrified, I tried my best to move and began rocking back and forth until I eventually fell off the bed onto the floor. But that didn't stop the experience. It only became louder and more intense. Moments later, I was back in my bed. At the time, I didn't connect the dots that these could be instances of what people call astral projection, or consciousness existing outside the body. So if you're me, you have two possible conclusions. / you're insane. / you experienced something real on some level. And maybe others have experienced it too. What surprised me was discovering that the rocking motion I used during that second experience is actually something teachers of astral projection describe as a method for leaving the body while in the mind awake, body asleep state, a state people claim can be reached voluntarily through meditation. The answer is here, folks, and the powers that be will never tell you it exists.